Hey, in this section, we are going to be looking at web hosting and how you too can get started with web hosting. And we're going to be featuring at how to get hosting with SiteGround. So that's one of the hosting providers that's out there, and that's one of many of the hosting providers. And the good thing about it is that it uses cPanel, and cPanel is commonly used for web hosting. So even if you're not going to go with SiteGround, you're going to be able to get some useful information out of the upcoming lessons in order to how to get your content online, as well as how to navigate through cPanel, really make the best of your experience when you get started with hosting your content in a web host. My name is Lawrence, and I'm going to be your instructor for this course. I come to you with many years of web development experience. I've got a number of courses out there where I feature how to create HTML, CSS, and JavaScript content. So this is all front-end programming, how to create web pages and web applications. So within this course, I'm going to be presenting to you how you can get set up and start getting your content hosted online with a web host. It's actually going to be surprisingly easy, and probably a lot easier than you think, to get your content from your local machine. So that's the computer that you're developing the content on and writing the code on, and get it up to a server and get a live web URL that you can share online. So when you first are selecting a hosting company, there's a number of things to look for, and you got to really ask yourself, what do you want to do with the hosting? What do you want to get out of the hosting? If you are looking for hosting for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, this is just front-end code. Almost every hosting service out there is going to be compatible for what your needs are. If you need a database, if you need some back-end coding, then you got to do a little bit more research in the hosting companies to make sure that it can accommodate your requests, as well as if you're looking to get a WordPress site up and running and going. So WordPress is based on a back-end programming language called PHP. So you have to make sure that your host, first of all, supports PHP language. And then second of all, a lot of the hosting platforms out there already have WordPress that can be easily installed through their backend, through their hosting panel. So that's going to be one of the things to look for when you are setting up a WordPress site. So look at the different server types, as well as the different types of access that you're going to need in order to get your files online. Again, if it's just front-end hosting like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you're fine with just FTP or FSTP. You also need to look at what you need in regards to traffic and what your expectations are, how much storage and bandwidth. And nowadays, storage and bandwidth, most hosting companies and most host packages should be sufficient for a simple website for front-end code. Another important thing to look at is how much customer service and how much customer support there is. So depending on what your needs are, you may need to connect with their customer service, and you might need to get some help with some of the products that you're uploading and some of the features that they have within their hosting account. How easily you can get to the customer service, and as well as how responsive they are and how knowledgeable they are, technical knowledge as well as knowledgeable within regards to the applications that you're building and what type of web content you're producing. So also looking at performance needs. So whether you need a shared server, which is hosting accounts on the same server, and you get some limits with the services that you can run. So there are a number of different tiers for hosting, and most of the time that the shared hosting is the cheapest hosting. So if it's sufficient for your needs, I would suggest to start with the one that's sufficient for your needs, and then you can always upgrade your packages from there. And it's a lot harder actually to downgrade than it is to upgrade. Next tier would be a virtual private server, then a semi-dedicated solution. So this is perfect for speed optimization, priority service, and as well for heavily visited sites. Also enterprise solutions, which would be another tier. And then lastly, there's a dedicated server. So this is a physical machine. Like the name implies, it's dedicated to your needs. So this is usually the most expensive hosting package that most host service providers offer. And there are also usually different tiers, data center location for these servers to physically sit on. So they allow you to optimize as well as run selected software on these machines. So they still hold it within their data center, but you do get full admin rights and full access. So it's just like having your own server, except it's being hosted and it's sitting at their data center. This is usually the most expensive way to go if you are looking for hosting. So unless you absolutely need it, but again, depending on what your requirements are, you may have to look at some of the other options. If you're looking for a long-term solution, you also want to be sure that if you do need the extra power, then you have the ability to upgrade that. So make sure that you look at that as well. Don't forget about looking at the host's reputation. So read about the hosting reviews, do your research online before you make your final choice.